Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining Lawana Hodges, YBC Youth Building Conversation. Oh, it looks like, wait a minute. Okay. Sorry about that. My StreamYard. There's something different.
Looks like you're live.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it. I don't know. It just looked like something is different here. That's here. I'm live on YouTube.
Okay. Hi, YouTube.
But it's not on my, what's the name?
Oh, you got to connect something.
Okay, I don't know. I guess we're just live on YouTube this evening, but I am trying to. Let me get this in here. I don't understand. Let me see if this can come right. Okay, great. Great. Sorry about that, guest. Thank you for joining Lawana Hodges, YBC Youth Building Conversation. This evening, I have the honor and privilege to be sitting down with my cousin, Ayanna Long, the filmmaker. I'm going to already call you the filmmaker because you already did it. Once you do one, that's what you are. That's who you are, the filmmaker. So how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm really happy to be connecting with you on this. And yeah, conversations are always good. So I'm excited.
Great, great, great. So before we start our interview, can you open us up in prayer?
Yes, I can. Alrighty. I would like to firstly just thank God for the opportunity to be here in this moment and sharing this experience with you, Luana, and also with whoever is watching. I also want to thank God just for all that He's done for me and getting me to where I am in my life today. And just getting through this year. I know it's been really difficult for everyone, but we're all hanging in there, and hopefully, we feel connected to other people because we need other people in this moment. So I just want to thank God for my community. I want to thank God for my health. I want to thank God for just everything, the strength that He gave me to finish this project that I know we're going to talk about today. So I feel blessed and thankful. Amen.
Amen, 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 amen. So I always like to start out. Who is Ayanna Long?
Ayanna Long is a daughter. She is a sister. She is a friend. I try to be a good friend. She is a storyteller who is trying to share stories, ideas, and experiences through film, through photography.
So Ayanna lives in Brooklyn, New York. So I have to ask this. COVID-19 hit back in March or even earlier for New York City, February, January, because that's when you guys really shut down. Yeah. How did that affect you personally and professionally, being that you was right in the midst of New York City?
Yeah, well, I work in video production. So when COVID hit, a lot of productions obviously shut down. So these are people who are, whose job is to be on set, whose job is to be behind the camera, whose jobs are like, there's so many jobs in the world of like film production, video production, that it trickles down to even people who are like pulling props for videos and things like that. So all of these jobs require people to be in a physical space together. And when we shut down, we were no longer doing that. You'll notice like a lot of video productions right now, and during the height of the lockdown, were of people turning their, just their cameras on themselves, so it was no longer like, say for instance, a nightlife show, a nighttime production show. I'm trying to think of the name of one of these like hosted shows. Like, they're not in their studios, they're now filming just with their cameras. So the whole like broadcast and production world really shut down during that time. So that affected me, and I actually got laid off in the beginning of the year. So I was unemployed. I was isolated at home in Brooklyn, which wasn't terrible because I'm a very like introvert person, to where like I know how to be by myself. But to a certain extent, so I was just isolated, unemployed, but thankfully I had everything that I needed in that moment. And just really not really knowing what was going to happen. But I felt like I had all of my immediate needs met. And yeah, that was me in New York at the height of quarantine.
And how did you get through it personally? Did you do some soul searching? Did it give you time to figure out, okay, is this what I really want to do? Or is there another direction I want to go? What can I produce around this time, being that you are a filmmaker?
It did make me think about like the field of work that I'm in right now, and like what is about to happen, because like I said, with a lot of productions being shut down, it's just kind of like, wow, like I felt like I didn't have a job that was, I don't want to say needed, but like essential, like, and so I started to think, definitely about what I could do to make money. Like in the sense of just like, I've committed myself to something, and this work field isn't really working right now. So what am I about to do? And so I can't quite say that it was like the most creative time for me in terms of actually producing something, but it was creative in the sense of just like, I've read so many books this year. Like, I've watched so many movies. Like, I feel like I've just been like really reflecting a lot about just the state of the world. And I think that before you produce anything creative with intention, I think that there needs to be a certain level of reflection that happens before you produce something, because otherwise, you're having these experiences and you're not like, thinking about like what is actually happening to you. So I can't say that like I've come out of quarantine with a new film or a new, whatever. I can't say that, but I can say that like I have been in a space of just kind of like thinking about how I'm moving through the world, and thinking about just the world in general. And I think that I hope that thinking fuels some creativity for me moving forward.
That's good. So right now she's in Brooklyn, New York, but you're from Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Southeast.
Yeah.
Oh, good old Southeast. And everybody always have a bad stigma about Southeast. And I know some, right, but I know some good folks that came out of Southeast. How was it growing up in Washington, D.C., in Southeast?
I love DC so much, because I just know that like so many of my experiences here have just shaped who I am. And like, I feel like some people are like a little bit ashamed of where they come from, like might not really have a connection to where they come from, but like I don't have that experience really. And I can say that like I always grown up around majority Black people. So, you know, just like I think my thinking of the world in terms of like being from Southeast, like I've never really had to think about my place in the world as a Black person growing up in DC because I was always surrounded by Black people. But I do think that growing up in Southeast, you do think not necessarily about race, but more so about like class and like socioeconomic differences from you and other people. So I did have those experiences growing up, thinking about those type of differences that I have from people. But I love Southeast. I've lived in the same neighborhood. Like my parents have lived in the same neighborhood of Anacostia since I was born. So yeah, that's like almost 30 years we've been living in Anacostia. And it's funny, like, you know, like being from DC, going away and living in New York for the past 10 years, and then like coming back and seeing like the difference because I'm just looking around, just like, what's this? What's this? What's like, who is this person running through the neighborhood? Like, you know, so it's just like, you know, I do see those differences, and I know when I come back home, that I'm going to really see it even more. But no, I love DC, and DC, like I said, it's played such a huge part in just my evolution as a person. So yeah.
I want to know, because I know, you know, your mom and dad, they're not moving. They're staying. I mean, your father made it clear. Now I ain't moving out of DC. I'm staying right here. Which is awesome because DC has so much culture as well with the music. And yes, we're going to talk about that film that have to do with the Jive music of Washington, DC. But who or what influenced you to want to become a filmmaker? Is that something you always desired?
No, and it's so weird, but it's not weird because I think that we have been taught that, like, you know, you are supposed to have this linear path through life. You know, like it's like you do this, you go to college, you do this, you go to grad school. You know, it's just like, and I think some people's journeys are like that. Like it's just like I always knew I was gonna be a nurse or whatever, and it's just kind of like, you know, they have these linear paths to get to that point. And it's just like I really can't relate to those stories at all, just because that wasn't my experience journeying into filmmaking. My mom, she always told me, Yana, you're such a good writer. You need to be a writer. And so going to college, I was just kind of like, and I always was a person that gravitated towards like books and English classes and things like that. So I knew that like when it came to like math, science, English, I gravitate. I could write you the essay. I'm the one that can write you the essay, and I do it real good. So it was just kind of like, you know, I was just like, okay, I'll study journalism. She's saying I'm a good writer. Like, sounds like I should just do journalism because I really didn't know. When somebody says you should write, my whole thought process was just, okay, journalism. Like I didn't even think about like screenwriting or, I mean, even grant writing, people who work in like development, things like that. Like, you know, like I just automatically just thought journalism for some reason. So I studied journalism in undergrad, and I started to get into different internships. And I was interning at like, I was doing like got into like film journalism for some internships. So I started out like writing about movies, and then I got into like, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And so then I got into like film PR. So those are the people who actually promote and help to distribute the films. So I got into that, and I worked at this film festival. And I was able to, since I worked there, I was able to get to watch a lot of the films that were screening at the festival. And it was just like, I don't think I want to do PR, but like when I would go to the film festivals and see the filmmakers speaking about their films and about their process, I kind of connected to that. So I was just like, I could do that. Like, so, and I had always been into photography in college. Like, I always was somebody who had a camera and was taking pictures. And so that just blossomed into like video. And I basically created this film because I got a new camera and I was like, I spent a lot of money on this camera, so I got to do something with this camera. And so, yeah, that's really how I got into it. But I always was like committed to finding a profession that like I really enjoyed. I think that just the idea of just like, just not being connected to the work that I do, you know, that wasn't really anything that like any life that I wanted to commit to. So I feel like I made a lot of sacrifices to get to this point. And I can't say I'm here now because I know that there's so much more to come, but I finally feel like, you know, I'm in the right direction.
Oh, that's good. You're arriving. You're at the
Exactly.
tip. You're getting there.
Exactly.
So the film, your first film, The Let Out.
Yes.
I mean, the name of the film, okay, you was already in New York. So you came back to do the documentary. I mean, what inspired you to want to say, okay, that's going to be I know you said you had a camera.
Yeah.
You had your expensive camera and you was going to have to use it somehow. But what inspired you to do The Let Out?
So like I said, I was studying journalism. So I think like documentary filmmaking came kind of like, it was kind of like just second nature to me to like venture into documentary filmmaking because of my journalistic background. But I guess I was just like thinking, I remember distinctly having like a conversation with friends about go-go and about DC. And I was having this conversation with friends from DC who were living in New York with me at the time. And we were just talking about like, do teenagers still go to go-go's in DC anymore? Because it was such a huge part of our upbringing that I think it was just a conversation around like, is that something that they are even connected to in the way that we were connected to it? And really that question led me down this journey that I wasn't expecting or didn't really know what was in store. But it started with me just having a conversation with friends and just kind of being curious about what was happening back home in that space, being as though I wasn't home. And so, yeah, I started and I thought that I would be making like, instead of like an actual, because the documentary is like 50 minutes. I did not intend to make something that long. I had just amassed so much footage that like it naturally turned into something that of that length. But I originally thought that I was going to be doing like a documentary series where like I would have episodes and they would be like 5 to 10 minutes long type thing. And I would just have a few. But then that, like I said, that turned into something different and we landed it with The Let Out. So it started with that curiosity about just like what's happening back home and then going from there, really.
Can you explain what your documentary is about?
Yeah, so The Let Out is a story that really highlights the latter era of go-go, which is the bounce beat era that came on the scene in like the 2000s in DC. And so the sound is very different from other go-go eras, from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. It's a story about how that sound evolved. And that is the era of go-go that I grew up in. So that's like what I know most about go-go. And I feel like it touches on that era in a way that other films haven't, because I feel like a lot of films show a lot of love, as they should, to Chuck Brown, to Rare Essence, and like I said, as they should. But I didn't grow up during that time, so I had to tell a story that was my story, reflecting my story in DC. So yeah, that's what the Let Out is about. And I mean, it the name comes from, because I was having trouble getting access to bands in terms of interviews and things like that. So I just told myself, okay, if you can't connect with the bands, then you can always just connect with the people. And so my way of connecting with the people was to interview them after the go-go would let out. So there are a lot of, it's a collection of interviews from people after they have come out of the go-go, but also before they've entered the go-go, to share with their experience, what they were looking forward to from the party. And then once it would let out, it would be like, well, how was it? You know?
Right.
And so I really just wanted to capture that energy of what goes on inside through the film. But I ended up actually being able to talk to some bands. So it started out, I didn't think that I was going to, but they are included in that story as well.
That's great. That's great. Now, see, I'm like the old, I'm not going to say 70s or 80s, but I guess I'm the 90s.
Okay.
Even though I'm not from DC, but going to college at Dell State, where Essence always came to our homecomings. So I was exposed to it.
Yeah.
And then moving down here, Chuck Brown, the older band groups we listened to. And then another sound came from your era, whole different, another sound, which was still go-go, but it was just a different type of
it's different
sound. Right, it was just a different, and I'm like, okay, I can't connect it. Is that okay? I'm used to the other, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's awesome that you did a documentary on your time, your era of go-go, because you always see all other documentaries about the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, go-go, but no one really haven't highlighted the millennials that came after them that started a whole different sound, but it's still go-go.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see the film as well. Yeah. So when your viewers go to look at the film, what do you want them to take from the film?
I think that I think that when creating something, I hope that what I create challenges someone to think about something. I do hope that it spurs conversation, but like, I guess I don't have any like specific hopes for what that conversation will be, but considering the state of DC and the state of the music, my one hope is that we all kind of take a critical look at how the city is changing and how it impacts our cultural spaces, because I do think that there is a disconnect from the youth and the music right now. And when I think the youth aren't connected to something, that means that something is going to die, essentially, because the only way that things go on is that kids have to pick it up. And so if kids don't pick it up, and if they don't learn the history about it, if they aren't curious about it, then I think that you have a problem in thinking about like the longevity of that. So I think my only hope is that people just think about ways in which we can connect the youth to this culture. Yeah, and just how we can just teach them about it so that they have their own experiences. But also, I know that there's like a lot of legislation and things being passed right now in DC since go-go has been designated as the official music of DC. And so I'm sure that with the money that they're funneling into those programs, I'm sure that like there's some education programs that might come out of that provide youth with tools that they need to learn about go-go. But I guess that's my only hope, is just that like we understand that, you know, this is something that we need to do something about the problem that that exists right now with that disconnect.
I was going to ask you, do you think your film is a stepping stone or the first step of talking about the present and the future of go-go?
Yeah.
Are you hoping that your film from what you were saying, are you hoping that your film get people talking about the future of go-go and what in the present state of go-go, and hopefully that the youth that is now, because I believe I know with my kids, they're not listening to go. And I know a lot of their friends that live in DC is really not listening to go-go. Like my older daughter, Millennial, she listens, she listened to go-go. She goes,
It's
so
like
it
that
is
last generation that really had that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
so that's why I'm bringing my kids. So hopefully they'll be able to get the history of what the 2000 era of go-go, what it means, what it is. Because I know for a lot of older people, when they hear the go-go, it's just the beat and the rhythm of the music that just makes you happy and gets you dancing. It's just the love of the sounds coming together. And and that's what music is. Any form of music. I grew up in North Jersey. Ours was hip hop. I grew up off of hip hop. So that was my genre.
Don't you all also have like a like it's like a club music?
Yes, we had house music. We had house music. Right. So not everybody wants to say not technical. It's not because they be like it's the same thing as Baltimore. No, it's not.
No.
Our Baltimore technical house music is totally different than Jersey and New York house music. It's a difference, but that's what we grew up on, as well as hip hop. But once you in the club and that house music come on, it's like your body just get to moving. And that's the same thing down here. Everybody get happy. There's peace created. And I believe, and I didn't grow up in DC, so I'm gonna assume that with the go-go music, it brought peace. It brought the Black culture together with sound.
Definitely. And I'm always interested in stories that highlight Black, especially Black American culture. I think that oftentimes there's this question of like, what is Black American culture? And it's just kind of like, we've created so much for ourselves here, like whether it's DC, whether it's New Jersey, whether it's Detroit, whether it's New Orleans, like I just think that the things that Black people have been able to, just create for ourselves when we didn't have a connection to who we were, like I think that it's so beautiful, and it deserves to be celebrated, it deserves to be honored, and yeah, that's what I wanted to do because it's so dope.
So who who is your mentor? Who do you look up to? Who inspire you to do the things that you want to do as a Black woman, as a woman, period?
Yeah. I mean, I can't, it's just kind of like in thinking about filmmaking. I can't say that when I was younger, and like I said, I didn't know that I wanted to do this. So there wasn't like a filmmaker that I was just like, I want to be like this person. But right now, I do not have a mentor, but I do have a lot of people that I'm looking at that just are doing things that I just think is just so amazing. And most of the times, those people are Black women. There are Black male filmmakers that I look up to. And there are also filmmakers from outside of the US that I think are like, so have done so much amazing things. But I think the people that I look up to are the people that are just like, have a good imagination and are looking outside of like, just have a good imagination and are like able to kind of like bring like everyday stories and kind of connect it to just like something a larger idea, I feel like. But I do not have a mentor. I want a mentor. I really do. Like, I think about that a lot because like I said, I haven't gone to film school and I don't have like that traditional linear path in filmmaking. So like, I do want to connect with more people. And if I'm able to find a mentor in those connections, that would be amazing because I'm trying to just figure out so much right now that I feel like being connected to people who've already figured out some things that I'm trying to figure out right now and who want to also support me, that would be such a blessing right now. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hard to find mentorship. I feel like mentorship kind of got to find you. or mentors, I think, have to reach back out and like, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. But until then, I'm just trying to show up for myself.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
I know that's right. So I have another question. Do you think living in New York, do you think you have or had a better opportunity in your field, or do you think coming back this way you might have a greater or branching out maybe to Atlanta? Because
I
the
thought
new
about Atlanta.
the new Atlanta, Atlanta is becoming the new Hollywood.
Honestly, I think about Georgia often, but then how Georgia has been handling this coronavirus, I'm just like, I don't know if I can move down that way down south. Like, I think that like, it's just kind of like politically, I don't know if that's the right landscape for me. But it seems like so much cool opportunities in Atlanta. And I think about that often. And I mean, I think about that now being as though, like I said, I'm preparing to move back to DC at least for a little bit. But I still have my job. I got rehired from my job and I work in food media doing video production. So I work on like a lot of like food shows and things like that. And I want to keep my connection to New York because New York is so close to DC. So,
Yeah.
I even if I decided to stay in DC, I could see myself traveling for work. I could see myself kind of living not bi-coastal because New York and DC are on the same coast, but I could see myself just moving a lot, traveling a lot for work back and forth. But I love New York because there's so much opportunities in the creative industry for people, and it's just kind of like there are opportunities in DC. I would imagine there are opportunities in DC, but like I would imagine that it's not as many as it is in New York. So I'm interested in seeing what this is about to be like for me, because this is the conversation that I'm actually having within myself right now, and that I'm about to figure out in coming back here. And it's hard because it's like, I'm in a point in my life where I want to get kind of settled a little bit, and and it's hard because I would love to do that around family, and not being able to, thinking about other places means that, that might not be in the cards for me, um and so it's something that I have to think about. But it's just like, I love DC because of my connection to my friends and family, but I love thinking about other places outside of DC because of the work opportunities that could come from that, and that's why I'm envisioning some kind of like moving through a few spaces kind of at once, and having that be my norm. So that would allow me to have the best of everything. So we'll see.
That's awesome, because I was going to ask you what is next for Ayanna, but you already answered it.
Yeah.
Moving through different spaces.
Yes.
And having the best worlds of everything.
Yes.
And you're young.
Exactly.
You can do it and everything else. So can you tell my viewers, how can they come out and see your movie? When is the film being? Where is that? How can they get the tickets? Because it's free. Her documentary is being shown and it's free.
Yes.
It's going to be like a drive-in movie.
Yes.
Just bring your popcorn and your soda pop, and you got a drive-in movie.
Yes, at RFK Stadium. Yes, at RFK Stadium on Monday, this upcoming Monday night. That's the 19th, I believe. And at 7 p.m. Like you said, tickets are free, and it should be a really good experience. I know that like they have been showing films in RFK, drive-in films, I think like since this summer. And so they have a lot specifically designated towards the drive-in area.
Okay.
And so yeah, this Monday night, 7 p.m., come check it out. It'll be a nice experience. It's just like, I know that it sucks that how movie theaters have been impacted by COVID, but it's so great, this comeback of drive-ins. Like, I think that's so cool. So I'm excited to be, like I said, I've screened the film before, but I've never screened it as in a drive-in. So this is like a different experience in seeing the film like this. So I'm really excited about that. Yep, 7 p.m. is free. Get your tickets. We'll share the link where you can just kind of like RSVP. And yeah, there's gonna be a virtual performance by TCB after the film. So yeah, I think that it's really going to be a moment for people to just have a quick little turn up a little bit in the car. So I'm looking forward to it.
That is awesome, and that is great. I didn't know you had live entertainment afterwards.
Yes, it's virtual, but it's something. We're trying to do something.
That's good. I think it's good that you're even though that you were in New York, that you came back to your community. You came back to Southeast and just represent it well. And I know you said that you also streamed your film in Brooklyn. What was that feeling? What was the response to people in New York?
It was definitely important for me to do it in New York because that has been my home for the past 10 years. And I screened it at a museum in Brooklyn called MoCADA. So it's the Museum of Contemporary African Diasporan Art. And to me, that museum is just like so legendary, just because that's a space that like I have been to before the screening, and just like a lot of artists that I really love have like shown work and had programming at that museum. So I felt really honored just to be able to be in that space and screen it there. And the reception was mixed because I had a lot of the thing about DC people is that they find each other wherever they go. So it's like DC people, DC transplants who live in New York, they have found each other. And a lot of the DC transplants that I knew came out, and it was a way for them to reconnect with home. But it was also a moment where I had like some old school people from Brooklyn that came out and they loved it, because a lot of people's like entry into go-go is through like Chuck Brown, definitely, but Spike Lee had a film that highlighted go-go. And so people have this idea what go-go is, but I think that it provided them with like a larger idea of what that is. And so I think it was really educational for them. So it was good. It was good.
That's good. That's good. So, for what encouraging words can you give to young filmmakers that's trying to come up, that's trying to do and accomplish stuff that you already have done? I'm going to say you accomplish it because you have a film. It's going to be shown on a larger screen in your own hometown. I know my son, he wants to study filmmaking. Yeah, he does. He does. Trey likes writing, and he has his own YouTube station, and that's what he wanted to study. He wanted to study filmmaking. He always had a fascination for it. So, what encouraging words can you give to young people to that want to go into filmmaking?
I would say if it's something that you want to do, that you should find some programs in your wherever it is that you live and like connect with people, because I think that what I had to learn through creating this film, because I created it by myself, but filmmaking is such a like collaborative art form. It is a art form that you can't, I mean, I made this by myself because it was like documentary, but like outside of this and after this, I never want to make another film by myself. So I would say that get connected to some film organizations that are in your community, because that way you'll meet people, you'll meet mentors, you will just be able to create something with other people. And I just think that just connecting with people and creating something with people is just such a beautiful thing. But I also think that before you meet other people, you have to start by yourself. So you have to start at some point. You have to decide within yourself, this is something that I'm interested in. So let me get a camera. Let me watch some new movies. Let me also read. Like I think that there would be without literature, without books, there would be no such thing as filmmaking. So you just gotta read stories. And so I think finding some type of film organization, because they have a lot, especially for high school students. And pick up a camera and just start. Think about what stories you're experiencing in your life and share those, because those stories are the stories that matter. Like I made a film about go-go, that was such a huge part of my upbringing in DC. So it's just like, tell stories that like you are connected to, that are about your experiences. You don't need to go outside of yourself to tell a story. Start with your friends, so.
Yeah, because you sit down and talk to your friends, you get a whole lot of stories.
You'll get a whole lot, so it's just like, and we're all having experiences that matter. Our experiences as women, our experiences as as somebody's son, somebody's daughter, you know, like wives, you know, like all of those experiences matter because somebody else is having the same experience and they'll be able to connect with you on it.
Okay, come on, New York accent trying to come out there.
Really?
I hear it. Yeah, look, just a little bit, just a little bit.
That's crazy. I never heard anybody say that.
Just a little. You got it. You got to touch. Just a little bit. Not that much, but just a little bit.
That's
good. Well, you know, I'm gonna tell you, you never know what talent you have in your family, and it's so good to know because I know you did the film documentary, but I wasn't sure. I thought you was doing fashion. I thought you was in New York doing the runway fashion, not actually. Yeah, I mean, until they said, well, no, she did a documentary on GoGo. I was like, film? Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So I still didn't think nothing of it. But I'm just saying, even though you don't have a mentor, you might can become a mentor.
Really?
For youth in this area. I know my son, he attended a filming camp last summer at Howard University. So Howard University also have camps for filming and stuff like that. And they shot a documentary and it was really awesome. It was really good. So I think that also, which really intrigued Trey to really want to, that's what I want to study, filmmaking. But there's a lot of kids in this area that want to do what you're doing. And how great is it? I'm just putting this in the atmosphere. You create that space for them. I'm just saying.
You know, you know, but honestly, I have been thinking about education programming, and I've been trying to get into that space. I do not have any background in education at all. But it is something that I just applied to a part-time job. You know, I'm working from home, so I kind of feel like I could take on 2-3 jobs right now. I don't know if I should be thinking like that, but I've just been like, I could pick up a part-time job. So I did recently apply for a part-time job as like a education assistant at a film program. I don't know if I got it, but it's just kind of like something has been calling me in that space, but I don't know what it is though, because like I said, I don't have a background in education, so we'll see. I'm not sure, but maybe.
I'm just saying, because the reality of it is, like you said, when you were younger, you didn't actually know what you wanted to do, but you knew you always wrote and everything. Just think if there was somebody, a mentor that you attended a camp, or if it was a space for filmmaking, or if it was a space for journalists. I mean, I'm pretty sure DC has it. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying, just what if? Yeah. And the young lady that does it's an organization that holds the camp for I forgot what they call themselves, youngsters for filmmaking. I have her number that I can forward over to you. Please. It was actually a young lady that came from New York.
Oh wow!
That actually helped them, and came into the camp and spoke about filmmaking, and she was from New York. So I'm just saying, it's just you know, I mean, it's just something, you know.
No, it is.
Sometimes you have to create. Sometimes you have to.
Yes, absolutely. Because I always wish that like I had access to some type of filmmaking program when I was growing up. I mean, I gravitated towards I was always the kid trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So even if my parents didn't connect me to nothing, I was trying to find something. But I wish I would have landed on it when I was younger, because I now see those type of programs and I'm just like, yo, this is so cool. Like that these kids have access to this at such a young age. So I would love to like be connected to something like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, do you have any questions for me?
I don't. I wish I did now, because I feel like this has been such a good conversation. Like I I'm so glad to be here. Like, I didn't really know what to expect, but usually when you don't know what to expect, that's when it's the best. But I just appreciate you for, like, bringing me in this space. And I feel like in talking, I learned something new. Like, I didn't know that Trey was interested in that, so just talking is such a beautiful thing, and I'm just happy to be here and, like, talking to you right now. So thank you for
yes. And we're gonna be back. We're gonna be back live on Monday.
Yes,
we're gonna go live on Monday after the viewing of your film and how you feeling, just the atmosphere. For those that can't come out, I'm gonna try to, like I said, because I'm not in filming. I'm gonna try to get a little snippets of the documentary and how people are feeling and everything
Yes,
else. Because I think you're young, you're doing it, and you're just showing off your era in music. And I think that's awesome. I think it's good that Go-Go still have a voice and is being heard.
yeah,
And it's not bad. It's awesome. It's good.
yeah,
It's feel good music to those who love it.
yes.
So
Ain't nothing wrong with the things that make us feel good.
I know that's right. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
I look forward to Monday. We're going to drop the link. So if you guys are not busy on Monday, bring your kids so they know the history of Go-Go as well. Come to the drive-in RFK Stadium.
Yep.
The link I'm gonna put in, it's free. It's only an hour and a half. And then after that, you get a little concert, a little bit of mini concert. Everybody in your car. You're gonna be in your car, so we're gonna be social distancing, but just to be in the atmosphere of a young lady, a young Black lady who's a filmmaker that have made an awesome film about her generation of go-go.
Yeah.
Can't get no better than that. So I just want to say thank you for joining us this evening. YBC, Building Conversations. Have a good evening. And also, as you can see on the screen, YBC, we support cancer awareness. And make sure you wear your pink for the loved ones that's fighting, for the ones that already taken their wings. This night is dedicated to Karen Walls, my cousin. I wear her. I don't know if you guys can see my tattoo, but I take her with me every day, not even just October, but every day of my life. And when I look at it, it reminds me of her and her wings. So just know if you have someone that's fighting cancer, breast cancer, just love on your family and your friends, because you never know. It might be us one day. Hopefully not. But in saying that, have a great evening and see you on Monday.
Bye.